Tuivasa cannot continue to take these shots. Oh, here we go. Derrick's hurt. Massive right hand. Derrick's hurt. And again. Derrick's hurt bad. He's bad. Oh, big elbow. Tuivasa. It's not tonight. Bam, bam. Tuivasa with the biggest win of his life.
Hold on, I'm talking, brother.
Hello, and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking, Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood, and you are listening to our UFC 271 review of Adesanya vs. Whittaker 2. This went down this past weekend, Saturday night, for the middleweight title. And Tom Ballum, how are you on this fine day? And how did you find this card overall?
Hi, Joe. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? It was a good mix of upsets, some thunderous finishes, and an interesting main event, a bit of a tactical battle.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I think is maybe the kindest response I've heard so far. A lot of people have been dunking on it, and that's where we're going to kick off. We're going to start with the main event. We'll get into it right now. Israel Adesanya, the last stylebender, retains his middleweight title with a unanimous decision over Robert Whittaker. 5 rounds, went the distance. And here's the big question, Tom. How did you score this main event?
Well, this is just it. I'm particularly excited to get into this with you right now, Joe, because we actually haven't shared our impressions of the fight at all. So no. I do not know what you're going to say. And I also have to say, I've watched this fight once with the commentary, and my only other interaction is listening to a couple of post-fight interviews, and then a little peek on certain social media platform. I'll say this to you, Joe. I was surprised to see that some people thought that Whittaker could have won this fight.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
Okay.
I don't. I
was ready for war then, Joe. I was primed.
Oh no. Okay. I'm gonna ask you now this, because I want to see where we fall on this line. Which rounds do you think Robert Whittaker won? And I say rounds plural. Up to you to decide if it is plural.
It's not plural for me.
Okay.
But again, I've only given it one look, much like the judges only get one look and they see it live. And yes, I was listening to the commentary with Michael Bisping and Daniel Cormier. The only round that Whittaker won was round 5 for me. I gave it 49-46 to Adesanya.
Okay. Round 5 is the only definitive round that I gave to Whittaker. The only other one that I was inclined to give him was round 2. And on my scoring of that one, I initially wrote Izzy ? Scratch that out and I put Whittaker ? So that's the only round that I'm slightly 50-50 on. And to be honest, I'm not decisive on who I would give that round. Every other round I'm pretty decisive on that it was Adesanya winning.
All right, Joe, let me just pounce on you right there. Round 2, then, going to round 2. Adesanya landed 24 strikes to Whittaker's 17. He was imperious in his takedown defense, briefly taken down by Rob, but then shrugged him off. And it was 16 significant strikes to Whittaker's 12. So Adesanya landing more, chopping the leg.
Yeah.
That was a round for Adesanya for me, Joe. 10-9.
I think the reason why I was leaning towards Whittaker on that one is that, at least from my notes, I watched the fight twice yesterday, was that Whittaker landed bigger shots in that round, but they were infrequent, whereas Adesanya landed the more sort of frequent shots. So that's why I initially was sort of leaning towards Adesanya. Still, on my second watch, I couldn't really split the round. But I think probably overall, I probably would lean towards Adesanya with that round. My main note, by the way, on the round that Whittaker did win, which was round 5, and I think everyone's pretty unanimous in that of him winning that round, was that my note was that the whole fight needed to be this for Whittaker to win it. It needs to be bitty, grimy, chest to chest, with sort of takedowns sort of layered in there. It's just that I think Rob got off to such a poor start that I think the rounds that he did better in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5, people have slightly exaggerated the quality of his output because of that first round. I don't know how you sort of read it.
That could be the case. I certainly felt that Rob was nervous again. Not to the same extent that we saw in the first fight, but definitely didn't want to get clipped in that same way. I think that was living in his memory. And you could certainly see that, when Rob created some openings, especially earlier on, but actually throughout the fight, he didn't necessarily capitalize. I have notes, for example, in round 4, which some people, I believe, maybe considered that Rob could have won. Actually, in terms of strikes there, they were pretty even. My note there is after Robert, I think it was on Izzy's back for a moment. They were close up against the cage, and then I think Rob landed that left hand, and then he just backed off, cleared the space. It was crazy. Like, he had Izzy in the position that he needs him to be in to win the fight. In the range, the problem was dealt with. He had got into the space. He had landed his shot, and he backed off, Joe. So,
yeah, there wasn't a lot of follow-up. That was the main thing as well of that round. And I think I think Rob had a lot of unique moments against Adesanya, moments that a lot of people haven't had. Like, Vettori didn't even get close to him with in his performance against Adesanya for the title. Same for Costa. Rob, he was on his back a couple times in a advanced position, but because Adesanya is just so quick and strong in getting up that people just almost seem to ignore it because, Rob got into that position, so that means he must have won that round. It's like, no, go on.
Well, no, Joe, I'm just sitting here just in agreement with you because it was like Izzy was so imperious in his defense. He looked so strong, so well set. He was up so fast that, I in some of those moments I ended up favouring Adesanya more, because he just shrugged Rob off largely. His sprawl was faster. Rob never looked like progressing when he briefly had Adesanya's back. And, I most of those moments I didn't really score necessarily in Rob's favour.
Yeah, I mean, the control time for Rob, I'll break this down for you right here. So round 2, 52 seconds, round 3, 30 seconds, round 4, 40 seconds, that's when he got on his back, and then round 5, 1 minute 38. No ground and pound landed at all. One submission attempt, kind of in the 4th when he was on his back. Again, not really. To me, Adesanya's defense was, as you say, imperious in this fight. And I think part of it is that Rob is such a likeable guy that people want to will him into winning this. And also, I think there is something that I think that maybe a lot of fans now have, which is that they want to see the new guy. They want to see a new champion. They want to experience oh my God, this guy won. It's like, he didn't win this fight. Like, the guy who beats Adesanya, and there is someone who has beaten him, the guy who beats Adesanya for the middleweight title, you are really going to appreciate that moment when it happens, if it ever does happen. Why would you want to try and force this moment into happening that's not there?
Joe, Rob Whittaker versus Adesanya 3?
Give it to me now. I would absolutely... By the way, I really like this fight. I know it was a little bit slow at times or whatever, but I was getting a lot from it in the sort of tactical side of it. It was really interesting. The fact that Rob didn't really throw his right hand to prevent any potential counters from Adesanya was very interesting. Did you find it odd, by the way, just talking about the reaction, why were people booing at the end of this fight?
Well, I don't think I'll be alienating our core audience in saying this. Like MMA, it's still an emerging sport, and when you've just watched, we're going to get on to the other fights in a minute, but when you've just watched a fucking hellacious Bo,
yeah, that's true,
put down, your primetime star and a man drinking beer from a shoe. Are you ready for a tactical exchange like we saw in that fight? Do you appreciate those smaller moments? Maybe not. I mean, Joe, like, I'm speaking for myself here. I haven't had a lot of experience watching UFC live. We haven't quite got our press passes yet. Dana, if you're listening, we'll let you know the address. Just drop us an email.
Hook a brother up. Come on.
Hook a brother up. But, I think you're able, when you're watching, to be honest, when you're watching it on the TV, much like watching a football match, actually, you catch more detail when you're analysing it on the big screen. And if you're, a couple of 100 metres away from the stadium in the top stand, you drunk some booze, maybe you're not really getting...
Clarity of thought's not there, yeah.
No.
Fair enough.
Just quickly, I'm not super hyped about Whittaker Adesanya 3 personally, because I just didn't think it was that close, and the first fight certainly wasn't close. As much as I love Rob, a couple of fights here for him at middleweight, but. Yeah, I'm trying to envisage that setup where I want to watch this fight a third time. I think Rob was kind of thinking maybe it was done, and it was like, wait, no, it can't be done. I've got to aim towards something. But I think that something is really Adesanya going up and clearing the division and letting him get back to reigning over the. Do
you think that will happen? Do you think Adesanya will vacate at a certain point and just move up to 205? And I mean, if Adesanya moves up and fails in winning at 205, then I guess he could go back down, but it's this sort of caught in between thing, isn't it? Of where do you want your success to be?
I don't want to see Adesanya go up, really. I don't. I wasn't that interested in the Ann fight personally. Yeah, just bring it on. Middleweight is where it's at for Adesanya.
Yeah. I agree. I like to see the guy standing at the top of the mountain, taking on all comers. One last thing about this fight that I just want to mention that was different to the Jan Blachowicz fight. I mean, there's many things that were different to it, but Jan Blachowicz, round 1, at the very beginning, checking leg kicks. He was checking those leg kicks immediately, and you just have to do it against Izzy. You just have to set yourself up to check leg kicks no matter what, because there were points where Rob was limping a little bit, he was wincing at some of those, and you have to think about how that looks to a judge. That's a guy showing damage. Those leg kicks, they
were heavy shots, Joe. They were
really
heavy shots. And
I thought Adesanya was quite vicious in this fight, more so than the Vettori fight.
He certainly started that way. By the way. I also think we haven't really looked at this from Adesanya's perspective. It's been a very Whittaker-centric podcast because we love that
so
man.
Far, yeah. Yes, of course.
Yeah, and I do think Adesanya was kind of just easing off the gas a bit, really cruising later rounds, and of course Rob had made adjustments. Adesanya alluded to those, and he wasn't quite finding the same openings, and he was eating jabs. Nobody likes that. If you're trying to get your offense off and you're eating stiff jabs off Whittaker, and Whittaker was landing those, that was on point. I think Adesanya just kind of cruised away, really, and that viciousness went away with that.
Yeah, I mean, you see this in the output of just the leg kicks. Round 1, 11 of 14, round 2, 7 of 9, round 3, 3 of 5, round 4, 4 of 6, and then round 5, 4 of 4. It's just, round 1 is where he banked a lot of that, put a lot of damage in, dropped Whittaker as well. Yeah, I think Izzy was just fantastic, to be honest. And Rob put up a valiant effort, but I just wasn't good enough to get it done, and there's no shame in that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's next?
Well, I think we've got to save what's next for the third fight, because I think we've got to content the brewing, rising power.
Oh, should we go to that right now, or should we just talk about Rob next? What do we want to see next for him before we take some time off? Maybe come back in 6 months. See.
Well, that's what he did
previously. See how the division looks.
It's been good for him in the past to do that. Yeah, I don't see any urgency there. He alluded himself to potential matchups in the division. There's always somebody coming up. And
I actually think that did his title claim some good, actually, taking that time off, because he was then able to put together a schedule that was quite impressive, to be honest. Till, Cannonier, Gastelum, all within quite quick succession, for considering his previous output. So that time off to heal, and then he could come back and start that climb again. And I think, again, in most of those matchups, I would favour him. But so yeah, I'd like to see him to take some time off. But for Adesanya, there's a clear contender, Jared. Soul Brother Cannonier, according to Daniel Cormier. My word, this was hellacious.
Yeah,
a brutal knockout of Derrick Brunson. First off, I thought the fight was going Brunson's way after the first round, in my opinion. And then he seemed to be knocked out on his feet and still moving. So Cannonier realised, well, I've got to just put him totally to sleep, and proceeded to. Incredible.
Yeah,
I thought.
yeah. So this was the third fight. We have just skipped over one fight there because it's a part of the middleweight title picture. We will come on to that in a minute. This was, as we said in our preview, second versus third at middleweight.
Yeah,
and we both picked Derrick Brunson, Joe.
Yes,
as you say, it started pretty well. He did knock Cannonier down, and he had his takedown. He had some control. Cannonier, I thought he looked, a little uneasy off his back in the first.
He looked tentative, I thought, and he seemed to be only reacting to Brunson. It seemed to be that whatever Brunson was doing, Cannonier would then react to it rather than trying to lead the dance. And then in the second round, he's just started pushing him back. Well, he initially started making that move to push him back, and then wasn't really throwing much, and then obviously in the second sort of turned it up massively.
Well, as much as he turned it up, though, Brunson was back to pre blonde hair Brunson, and he was so one dimensional. He was ducking down, like not disguising anything, not setting anything up. He just kept ducking down for a single leg, and I was wincing every time, Joe. It was getting sloppier and sloppier, and I was like, "Is this the Brunson that I've seen on this recent run, or has it got to him? Is something happened in camp? I don't know." But in the end, somewhere in that second round, he ate a shot, and the commentators, they did pick up on it. Credit to them. He was moving very strangely. Very strange. Last time I moved that, Joe, Jägermeister.
He looked gassed.
I was a young man, and wow, I was in no fighting state, I'll tell you that. And in the end, when the demise did come for Brunson, it was fast, violent, and the corner ended up having to chuck the towel in. I don't know if you caught that one.
Yeah, I did. And you know what? Let's just stop on that for a second. Good on them. Good on them for actually doing something. And I know it came right as it was about to end anyway, but you know what? If that can actually set a precedent of corners, this guy's in trouble, I've got to get him out of there, then they've got to start doing that more. And yeah, it was... Brunson just looked gassed out, and he did this weird thing of like, I'm going for a takedown, oh no, I'm halfway there and he's nowhere near. I'll just wing a left hand. It's like... I had this thought in my head of like, if Cannonier just wanted to punt him in the head, like just straight kick him in the head there, like a goalkeeper kicking the ball out of his hand, like he could have done it in that moment. It was, I don't know what Brunson was going for. It was,
well, I think
it was a cartoonish chasing around the cage at a certain stage.
I think you alluded to it when you opened this segment that Brunson he ate a shot there. Before, sometime in the second round or at the end of the first, he was just not. He was not right, Joe. He was not right.
And
the finish was brutal. I found it very uncomfortable.
There were one shot too many,
or two, or two.
Two. Yeah.
The referee a little bit not really alert, I think, to the danger. The towel had come over the fence before the referee was down there stopping it, and Brunson, I think his brow was opened up by that last shot. Didn't need to be. But, congratulations to Cannonier.
Yes.
He's next, isn't he, Joe?
He is next. He will be next. Seems like it'll be June. Can I just bring this up from the main event as well? Joe Rogan doing the he's hurt from a distance and still being wrong was incredible. How does he... When Izzy was holding his right hand, I've seen him do that in pretty much every single fight he's done. The patting of his right hand. He does it all the time. I don't know whether it's a mind game thing. I don't know whether it's the gloves just uncomfortable and he just needs to reposition it, whatever. Whether it's just him resetting in his mind, like, okay, go back to this position. Okay, I can go from here. But so incredibly wrong. And then like when Adesanya's like, no, I'm good. Let's go in June. That's open. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I can't wait. I love the fact you got a champ saying, I'm going to be ready then. Are you going to be ready then? That's what I want to see. And Adesanya staking a claim, early claim for Fighter of the Year by lining out his schedule like this. You know, he really needs to fight 3 times in a year if you're going to be in that reckoning. Cannonier said so himself. Faced a little bit of adversity. Seems to do that in every single fight at the beginning. And I wouldn't want to do that against Adesanya if I were you, Jared. Because that is... You're asking for it basically at that stage, aren't you?
Well, without looking ahead too much, my stance hasn't really changed on Cannonier. We got the fight wrong.
Yeah,
certainly did. I'm still looking at Brunson there. I think there's a bit more to what happened in that fight than
yeah, for sure,
than what appears. Anyway, Joe, what about that co-main? Bam Tuivasa and Derrick Lewis. Joe's holding his notes here. Let's go.
Right, so I've got my notes. So I've got round 1. I gave it to Derrick Lewis. And then round 2, I don't know, Tom, if you can see this here, but I just wrote, oh my God, is literally all I put for that round.
Joe, let me just highlight likewise to you here. My notes end with technical scrolling and then capital letters, no way. No way. Wow.
No way indeed. That was actually, is that the only heavyweight fight in living memory that actually lived up to billing?
You know what? In that first round, the commentators were expressing a bit of doubt. You know, I think they made reference to the infamous Ngannou Lewis 1. And, you know, Lewis was going for a bit of wrestling, and I think some people were like, hold on, what's going on here? But towards the end of that first round, Joe, oh my God, I was calling it. I was done. Thanks for coming along. Tai Tuivasa pinned against the cage. Lewis unloading that big right of his. Clean contact. Very, very Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir, where Frank Mir just ended up, you know, that was horrible. And I saw the same thing happening there. Tai Tuivasa, wow, that man can eat a shot, or he did last night anyway.
Are we looking at now a legendary Mark Hunt-esque chin on Tuivasa? This guy is... But by the way, as he was getting punched, he was getting up and looking angry as well, going like, I'm getting him back. Like, I'm not having this. I am getting him back. And also, Tuivasa, this is something that I was really impressed by him in the fight. Not just the chin, which is almost mythical. Legendary, I should say. The clinch work from Tuivasa was really impressive, I thought. Working on Lewis's base, you know, working him along at controlling the position was really impressive. And then, in that second round, the rocking and the rolling, the swanging and the banging, it was clean shots.
It was, but Joe, who was winning the fight up until the knockout?
Does it matter?
It's all distant memory now, but I thought Lewis was looking great. I love to see him mixing in those trips. That I enjoyed that very much. And I thought Lewis was just getting onto his game there. If it wasn't, I mean, in that exchange before, Lewis eventually ate the bow. We haven't actually talked about the finish there, where Lewis, it was one of those like, oh God, you know, get the paramedics in there, because the way he went down.
It was a bit of a weird one as well, because I felt like that elbow wasn't like... It wasn't like a hellbow. This wasn't like, you know, the sort of Jeremy Stevens... Well, Jeremy Stevens hasn't knocked anyone out in a long time. But do you know what I mean? That sort of heavy elbow knockout. He just seemed to land it clean, and was the cherry on top more than anything of just sending Lewis face down, ass up.
But even in that exchange, I had Lewis on top. I thought I was just waiting for Tai to go down. Like that he was in he was in his home. You know, he was where Chris Dawkins was just a few weeks back, and So it was that was why it's particularly shocking to me to watch Lewis go down like that slow motion, head forwards. It was one that it was concerning. Obviously, thank God Lewis he seems fine. Lewis in Houston, Joe. It's one of those mythical fighters, but not in
Sea Level Kane.
Sea Level Kane.
Yeah.
Full Camp Mendes.
Yeah. It's not looking good for Derrick in H-Town, but it's an interesting one for Lewis because he's 38 years old. So in most divisions you'd be writing him off, but in heavyweight, as was shown in the prelims, you can keep going for quite a bit longer. Not very much.
Let me just check you there, Joe. You're putting years on the man. He's 37. He's a fresh chicken. A young buck.
Bloody Nora.
A veritable.
He is indeed
up and comer.
Heavyweight. Sorry to Mr. Lewis there, but it's all right. Should we just put it out there? Tai Tuivasa title contender.
What?
Are we going to have to say it?
I mean, for sure, this is the.
Oh my God! You seem so disturbed by that. you had a real existential dread on your face there of the guy that got mounted by Spivak.
It's crazy.
A title contender.
It's crazy. Tai is great, and it's a huge moment for him. The biggest win of his career. I want to see at least one more fight, one more, before we start talking about a matchup. I mean, Joe, how would you fancy him against the likes of, say, Curtis Blades?
Well, God, no, I don't fancy that. But then also, I feel like Blades is a long way from a title shot anyway.
Well, Blades, Curtis does have a habit of going in as a strong favourite and then getting clipped with an uppercut whilst he's shooting. I wouldn't rule that out again because it's happened with such frequency for Blades. Obviously twice to Ngannou and once to the man Derrick Lewis.
Yeah. Let's see how he gets through the Dawkins fight first before I really want to sort of book the Blades Tuivasa fight. I know Tuivasa's probably going to take a bit of time off because he's had quite a busy schedule recently. By the way, five wins in a row now for Tuivasa, all by knockout.
Amazing.
It's just what a turnaround. I'm trying to think. Maybe the winner of the Aspinall-Volkov fight might be quite interesting for him as a potential.
It's certainly interesting, and I think he would prefer a fight like that than one against Curtis Blades, and that would be a legitimate step on the way up. Yeah.
So
sure.
I'd say something like that. Maybe I would go with something like that for Tuivasa. For Lewis, take a bit of time off and just smoke some jabroni later on in the year, I would say, pal, and then come back, do your thing.
So you mean
because I'm always going to watch him.
Yeah,
I will always watch Derrick Lewis. He is a freak among freaks. So always excited to watch him. Right, shall we go down to the tie-breaking fight between me and you in our predictions? Mm-hmm. And
let's talk about that, Joe.
Right.
Yes,
you got it right.
Tell me more.
Renato Moicano, but you could have got it more correct, couldn't you? We realised this after the fact that
it was so obvious, Joe. It was so obvious.
It was so obvious. I mean, first off, I'm not going to acknowledge you as the champion. You're a paper champ, due to the fact of the second recording. The first recording is still out there in dodgy form. You're not the real champ, but that's another issue.
Mysteriously corrupted that file, the first recording. So it's a dirty game out there, but that's what you've got to do if you're going to be the champ, Joe. And that's what
you are indeed the champ. I'll give it to you this time. But Moicano, it was so obvious, wasn't it? He was going to knock him down and submit him. And then when you saw it happen, it was like, how did I not see that? It was plain as day. I mean, we got Bobby Green correct, and we'll get to that in a second, but that was obvious as well. Hernandez, I just put here for my notes, Hernandez is a bust. So chinny, easy to tag, doesn't evade at all.
Scathing.
Awful performance from Hernandez.
Well, I mean, he's going to be, his athleticism is such that he's going to be, he deserves to, well, not deserves, but he will be hovering around the outside of the rankings and upsetting a few guys here and there.
Is he though? Is he? Because he's lost to guys who are in that position. He lost to Dober.
Well, I've got Dober. I've got Dober in the kind of 10 to 15 area, you know. Whereas Hernandez, I'm talking. He's lurking. It's like, all right, you're building momentum. You've got a good jiu-jitsu game, and you're just about to break to the rankings, and then you come up against this guy. He is an athlete.
Get him out the fucking UFC. I've had enough of him. Just get him out. I've had enough of it. Like I'm sorry. My analysis before it was pretty much spot on, wasn't it? Admires his work too much and stays, and basically his head is there on the centre line the whole time. Even when he's coming in at an angle, it's like his head is just still in the same position. It's just, yeah. And Moicano, by the way, how the fuck did that guy ever make featherweight? Now that I was thinking about it, that guy is huge.
He is. He's tall anyway. And as much as we're kind of railing now against Hernandez, the fight was always going the way that it went, but Moises still looks vulnerable to me to counter hooks.
Moicano.
Moicano. Apologies.
Yeah.
Renato. An aspiring lawyer at one point, Joe, I should say. The guy, you know that? Renato Moicano, he dropped out of law school to become a cage fighter.
Oh, really?
Comes from a wealthy Brazilian family. And
I'm sure he could go back to school at some stage, but yeah.
Well, he's been taking guys to school in the UFC. But, as I say, there was still that, like, wait a sec, you know, like, I need you to hold it together here, Thiago. Because, yeah, he like... That shot was there. Was there. But the first round, Joe, how did you score it? You had my...
I actually did give it to Hernandez.
Oh, wow. I gave it to Moicano with the takedowns and with the threat of...
I did initially write Hernandez scratch out, then put Moicano and scratched out, and then went back to Hernandez all within the space of 5 seconds. They had that takedown that sort of led to scrambling, and then... you know, Moicano landed some big shots, I thought, from Hernandez, admiring his own work, but I thought Hernandez's sort of frequency and sort of was sort of winning the round for me. But again, I just don't see the point of Hernandez being in the UFC. I don't see the point of him being on pay-per-view main cards at this point. He should go back down, work his way back up in front of nobody, build up a bit of a winning record, because one win... Like, his last 4 fights before this was lost one, won one, lost one, won one. It's just, that's not a record enough for me to get you onto a position like this. And the performances just aren't there for me either.
What about the lawyer-to-be? Renato Moicano. Who's next for Moicano? How do you see? That's three wins now in his new division.
What's next? What's next for him in lightweight? Well, who hasn't got a matchup at lightweight at the moment, and who's kind of just outside the rankings? Do you think that?
Not enough for you just yet, then, to see him come up into the rankings. Let me put some names out there for you: Brad Riddell, Diego Ferreira, Gamrot, Gillespie, Fiziev.
You know what?
Nope.
I would. No, not Fiziev. He's lost to Fiziev already. You know what? I will say. How about Ismagulov? How about him?
Awesome. It makes sense. It would be an interesting matchup with their respective games. So sign me up for that. Wins that one, Joe. He's not knocking on the door, isn't he, for the top 15?
Who? Moicano. He's not knocking on the door for it.
No, he would be with a win over Ismagulov.
He would be.
For me.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. I would say
so. I'm just trying to say one win away from, breaking through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's about right. Should we talk about the opener of the main card now?
Let's do it.
30-27 to Bobby Green. We both had him by decision. Played out exactly as we thought he was going to. Did you have it all 3 rounds, Bobby Green?
I had it 30-27, Bobby the King Green.
I want to see him in a nice big spot for his next fight. It was a smooth performance. Hakparas, sort of played into his game quite perfectly. And actually, there's a name that you mentioned before that I want to see next for Bobby Green. Bobby Green versus Brad Riddell is exactly what I want next. I think that would be awesome. A bang. That does awesome. Sound good, doesn't it? Yeah.
Hold on,
Fight night main event.
Hold on, I'm talking, brother. Official stamp. Fight night main event. I love it.
Yeah, and Hank Press, you can face Hernandez to see who leaves the UFC. So, I don't have anything else to say about this fight. I thought it played out exactly. I thought Green... do you know what was actually... I'll say this just... I'm slightly rambling here, so I apologise for that. Green at points landed 3 to 4 jabs in a row without much...
Split in the guard, Joe. I was thinking to myself, this is a good fight. Oh, all right, nice high guard from your man Hakparast. He's doing well. He's doing well to blocks at some of these. Oh, wow, that's a lot of blood. And then it became pretty apparent that he was splitting the guard at will and was just sprinting away from Hakparast by the end, who looked pretty messy after the fight.
Yeah, it was. There was points where he landed, if I remember correctly, 3 5 to 6 shot combos from Bobby Green just landed clean with nothing coming back.
Beautiful.
A lot of swinging and missing from Hakparast. And this was something that I realised as well when watching it, was that Hakparast had his hands up and he was leaning forward a bit, whereas Bobby Green was upright with his hands down. So when Hakparast is throwing, Green has not as far to sort of evade it, because Hakparast was headhunting as well. He was just swinging at that head the whole time. When the body's right there, he was swinging at his head, so Green only has to move back a little bit. Whereas when Green throws, Hakparast has to go from leaning forward into upright all the way back. So he's got an extra step to go to evade. Green's hands were so much quicker as well. It was easy work for him, really. And I'm delighted for him that he's getting these big spots. I'm delighted that the crowd are behind him now. You know, when they were chanting Bobby, and I was really happy for him. I thought this was a really good moment of seeing the experienced guy getting his moment and putting on a fantastic performance.
Absolutely, all credit to Bobby Green. What more can be said about that fight?
Exactly. Should we move on to the prelims? I know you haven't had the time to sort of go through them, but I can just give you a couple sort of standout moments if you want from the. That
would be excellent prelims for the listeners. Yeah.
Okay, now. Fight of the night happened on the early prelims. Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Sergey Morozov in the bantamweight division. It delivers yet again. This was a incredible fight, back and forth. Morozov busted up de Andrade badly. It was a deep gash. You know, Nate Diaz versus Masvidal level gash. Not that bad, but it was deep gash in the brow. And de Andrade, bro, he comes back and he drops Morozov 3 times in the second round and then subs him. It was absolutely brilliant, hellacious fight. Treat yourself, listeners. Treat yourself, Tom, this afternoon and get that fight.
Fight of the night. No question for you, Joe.
No question at all. No question. The only other thing I would have maybe have given it to was maybe Cannonier Brunson. I had that sort of slight back and forth element, but nothing like this. This was absolutely brilliant. Roxanne Modafferi in the flyweight division, losing to Casey O'Neill. This is her retirement fight, and I gotta say it. Casey O'Neill cutting the Ally Quinta "Don't You Dare Fucking Boo Me" promo, which was great. Loved that. Oh, by the way, promo of the night. I think we can agree. Jared Cannonier.
Enjoyed it for sure.
Greatly, which I will mention again later when we talk about the fight night preview. But I gotta say, Roxanne Modafferi doing her retirement promo, I got a little bit emotional. I'm not gonna lie, she's not the best fighter. I think we can all agree on that, particularly in that division. I don't want to disrespect her in any way whatsoever at all. But a pioneer in women's MMA and got a good send off, even in defeat, and put on a good scrappy performance. And Casey O'Neill put on a fine performance to defeat her there. Kyla Phillips defeating Marcela Rojo, who is a bum and should never have been on the main card, much like Anthony Hernandez. Phillips there dominating for 3 rounds and finishing with a triangle armbar. I would recommend that just to see what Phillips is capable of. What else happened on there? Blood Diamond, Israel Adesanya's mates, early prelims. A bizarre fight where Jeremiah Wells started the fight by running along the cage, literally circling the cage, tripping. Blood Diamond goes to engage and falls into a takedown from Wells, who then proceeds to beat him up and send him to sleep with a rear naked choke.
Oh dear.
And that's about it, really. Carlos Ulberg beating Fabio Charant on the prelims. That is Adesanya's mate. Bisping was keen to point out this guy used to be a male model and is now a light heavyweight contender. I can see the city kickboxing influence, but just doesn't have that sort of killer instinct and was happy to play it safe. I think down to the fact that his last fight in the UFC went a bit hard and gassed out and lost, so he was playing a bit safe in this one. And Charant just wasn't on his level, really, and was a bit of a punching bag. Rojo and Charant playing the punching bag roles early on the prelims for these two potential up-and-comers in their division. Anything else we want to talk about from this card? Oh, I want to ask you... I'm going to stop talking in a second. Commentary. Give me your thoughts on it.
Commentary. Well, again, like, one is always influenced by the commentary, and I haven't listened back without the commentary. Seems to be a lot of uproar about Bisping.
Why? Because he's good?
Because he's English, I think, is the
okay.
main reason from what I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it.
No.
Quite neutral about it all, really.
I thought it was good when it needed to be, and when it was bad, I kind of just zoned it out, to be honest. So it wasn't. I found Cormier to be not as irritating as he usually is when Rogan is there. Yeah, that's about mainly my takeaway from the commentary. To be honest, so
shall we look ahead to next weekend's fight night card?
Should we talk about the fight night? Yes, let's talk about the fight night cards. Headlines now, no longer by Fiziev versus RDA, but now by Jamal Hill versus Johnny Walker. Yeah, what can we really say?
Not a whole lot. I think this will be a brief discussion, listeners. Email in with any queries, because I think on this card, really, there's not a lot to draw attention to.
Take that back, because our boy Joaquin Buckley is fighting on this card.
Yeah. Again, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, a one-time explosive fighter in his own right. I'm gonna ease off on the pressure on Buckley. Let's get him on the mic as much as possible, and I really hope he has a nice moment in this.
Now,
fight.
Tom's just referenced it. Everyone loves Buckley for the spin kick where he knocked out.
But actually, Joe, he's more than just one kick. This man.
He is a promo machine. I'm going to play it now for the listeners. I'm going to drop this in. Joaquin Buckley's fire promo after being that jabroni Jordan Wright.
Did you sense that the end was near?
Yes, sir. I mean, when I seen his eyes roll back in the back of his head, I'm a nice guy, man. He's a nice guy. That's why I didn't want to hurt him. But, it's other dudes out there that I want to fight who talking that nonsense, and I really want to give it to him. Because when I hurt him, the referee can't save him. And y'all know who I'm talking about.
Who are you talking about?
Yeah, I know who I'm talking about. Look up my name on YouTube. You will see him. He the only person talking stuff. I don't need to give his name out. Just do your homework, and you know who I'm talking about. Fight Island, January 23rd.
I know who it is. It's James Krause. I just wanted to hear you say it.
You can say it. I ain't going to say his name.
All right, listen, Joaquin Buckley, it's about you tonight, sir.
Yeah, not much on this. I tell you what, I'll run through the fights going from the bottom up. Pick a name, okay? And then we'll go through some new stuff just very quickly.
Sounds great.
Joaquin Buckley, Abdul Razak Al Hassan.
Let's go, Joaquin. Back.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go, Buck.
Yeah.
Let's go. Jim Miller versus Nicholas Motta.
Aye, poor Jim. Motta.
Come on.
Decision.
I'm gonna go Jim Miller. Parker Porter versus Alain Bordeaux. I actually don't know who these guys are.
Parker Porter, Joe, come on, get it right. This guy, substantial mass to him, and he's going to use that mass to advantage and land a knockout on Bordeaux.
Okay, what's the next one there? We've got Kyle Dawkins versus Jamie Pickett. Dawkins just had that fight with Kevin Holland, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm going Dawkins by headbutt.
Okay, cool. That sounds great. And then Johnny Walker versus Jamal Hill.
Well, we find Hill here in the position that Walker was himself at one point. He's catching some fire now. He's got some great hands on him. Cuts a fun promo on himself too. So, yeah.
He had the loss to Paul Craig as well.
Hey, Joe, there's no shame in losing to...
No. What I'm saying is the sort of the derailing of the hype train a little bit,
But he came back, Joe. The performance over Jimmy Crute was a great.
That's true.
Great showing from Jamal Hill. I think I mean, I'm not writing off Johnny Walker just yet, but I feel like the momentum is with Hill, and he does have some nice striking up there at light heavyweight. More strikers, bring it on.
Indeed.
So
I'll go Jamal Hill.
Are we see a knockout there, Joe, or is that a decision?
Yeah, fuck it. Why not? Knockout. Yeah, Jamal Hill by knockout for me. All right, just very quickly, we're going to go through a couple little news things that have come up. Nate Diaz in the news announcing that he wants Dustin Poirier as his retirement fight so he can, quote, get out of this fight game. Tom, how much do you believe that he wants to have this so he can get out of the fight game, or so he can have a lucrative boxing match with Jake Paul?
I mean, Diaz long harboured desires to pursue creative endeavours, I am sure. Painting, writing. I can picture it all. But
the Book of Diaz.
The great Book of Diaz. However, I think meme-style boxing is his natural home, and he's gravitating to that as soon as possible. Not particularly interested in that potential matchup you've mentioned there with Poirier. But
with Dustin?
Yeah, but I've heard Poirier is down for it. Do you think Poirier? We said before you've earned your stripes. You're not up for a shot at the belt again anytime soon.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Diaz is obviously wanting to get out of this contract so he can go off and do his meme boxing thing. I think probably also fight for Bellator a couple times, perhaps. He's got that relationship with Coker. The Diaz brothers have that relationship with Coker, and I think that was partly why UFC didn't want to let Nate and Nick fight their contracts out at the same time, because I think Coker would have cut quite the deal for them. And and quickly on Dustin Poirier saying that he doesn't want a fourth Conor fight, which is great, and he doesn't want to fight Covington because, quote, if that happened, I'd be going to jail. That's.
Yeah, I actually have that pulled up right now, Joe. I was watching him, watching those comments. That's wow. There's some menace to that.
He doesn't like him, does he?
I get in that impression, and some people have interpreted this as Dana White not needing to pay them to fight. So we could see it. Parking lot outside a future event.
Yeah, real WWE vibes. The sort of parking lot brawl. Yeah, I'd be down for watching that. I'm not interested in watching them fight at welterweight. Those two. I know Dustin's very big for lightweight, but I don't know, I'm just not that bothered. I don't want to see Covington get dragged into these fights. I want to see him in contender fights.
Joe,
he's a contender.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, what I'd say is that these guys are 165ers. No, isn't that kick off inaugural decision? Poirier versus Covington. Wow, I'm interested, but as it is with the weight divisions and their prospective standings, it's okay. I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
Absolutely. And what was the other thing that he said? Oh yeah, about the Conor fight. I guess he's doing that Khabib thing of I beat the narcissist, so I'm going to beat him even further by not fighting him, by letting him know that the last thing that happened between us was me leaving him on the ground, prone and vulnerable. So good for him. Good for him.
Good for the sport. Joe. Good for the sport.
And you know what? I love that sort of mentality of just like, I'm a true fighting man. I'm in this organisation for fighting proper fighters. You can say what you like about Nate Diaz, but he does come down to properly scrap when he does fight, even if it isn't the most refined elements of the art form. But hey, I'm cool with that. Right, listeners, thank you for joining us on this review of UFC 271. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. And we will be back next Monday to talk about Jamal Hill versus Johnny Walker. I'm sure she'll be frothing at the mouth to tuck into that bad boy. Tom, is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I just wanted to share my love for the great nation of Belgium, which is our prime listener base right now. So appreciate that, guys. Dank you wel in Dutch. I don't know how your French is, Joe. You want to sign off with a little...
With some Dutch?
Well, French would do. Do we know where in Belgium these guys are coming from?
No, I'll try and dig in a bit further.
Tell you what, boys, and ladies, of course, of Belgium.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure the women are listening to this.
Joe, I think that might be it, I think that might be our niche, the ladies of Belgium. We're here for you, okay? It's a big tent, and feel free to write in. Thanks a lot, Joe. It's been a great pleasure talking with you about the card, and speak to you next week around the same time. Next episode out next Monday, hopefully.
Yes. See you then.